Hello everyone, welcome to Katala. Today we're looking at number operations part 2, which is multiplication and division. So we're going to start with multiplication. I'm going to learn how we can multiply both integers as well as decimals before looking at how to divide integers and decimals. So starting off with multiplication. Calculate the value of the following: 32 times 43. So the setup of this question, if you just ignore the step 1, step 2, step 3 there just for a minute, that'll make sense in a moment's time. The setup of these questions is very similar in layout to the addition that we were doing in the last video. You just write 32 times 43 on top of one another. And it's not as important to keep the place values lined up as we were doing for addition previously, but it is a nice idea. If you can do so, then I'd recommend doing it if it's no extra hassle. So the way we tackle this, where we multiply these together, is for a start, step 1, we take however many numbers are on top. In this case it's 2 and 3, and we multiply them one at a time by furthest across on the right for the number on the bottom. So, and we're doing this one at a time, okay? So the first ones we're going to do is starting as far right as possible. We're going 2 times 3. Now 2 times 3 is going to give us 6, and we're going to write that down below here in the ones column because we're timesing the ones together. And so once we've done 2 times 3 and gotten 6, we then have to move across by 1 to the 3 and do 3 times 3 now. Now since we've moved to the left and we're considering the 3 on top, we're now going to put our number in this space here in the tens row. So 3 times 3 is going to give you 9. And so this here is just going to be 96. So in other words, we've just found out that 32 times 3 is 96. And that's the first step there. Step 2 is we do the exact same process. So we're going to take the top two numbers, but this time we're going to multiply them by the 4 on the bottom. And since we're starting with the 4 on the bottom now instead of the 3 on the bottom, we're using the tens row. Remember the 4s are lying in that tens row. We're going to start by putting our numbers in the tens row here. It's just one step to the left. And so what you want to be doing is filling up any gaps you have here with zeros. So we don't just leave that empty as if there's nothing there. It's worthwhile just filling it up with a 0. And once you get used to the habit of doing this, you will just naturally put a 0 every single time you drop down a row. So 0 goes there, and we're going to start putting our numbers where that scribble currently is. So we need to do the first number, which is 2 times 4, which will give you 8. And then move across 1, because we're now doing 3 times 4, which would be 12. And so 12, the 2 would go in this row, and that 1 would carry across to the left. But since there's no other numbers there, you may as well just put that 1 nice and big there, just to get 1280. So that's step 2 done. Step 3 is we then got to add these two together to find the total result. So 6 plus 0 is 6, 9 plus 8 is 17, put the 7 there, carry the 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, and then 1 by itself here. So we get 1376, and that's our final answer there. Next up, we're going to do part B, 513 times 62. So 513 times by 62. And I'm going to line them up just because it's really no extra hassle here, but it's not as important, as I say, as it is with addition and subtraction in the previous video. And we're going to do the exact same process. So we're going to times each of these numbers on top, the 3, the 1 and the 5, by the furthest number on the right for the number on the bottom, so the 2. So we're going to do 3 times 2, that's going to give you 6. Move 1 across to the left, 1 times 2, it's going to give you 2. Moving 1 across to the left, 5 times 2, which is going to give you 10. And again, similar scenario to the previous question, that 10, the 1 you might as well just put as a big 1 there because there's no other numbers in that column. So that's the first part done. Now we need to do 513 times 6. And since we're starting here with the 6, it makes sense to start putting our numbers there. So the gap, rather than leaving it as empty, just put a 0 there because we're dropping down to the next row. And so we've got 3 times 6, that's going to give you 18. So you put the 8 there, carry the 1. 1 times 6 is going to be 6, but with that extra 1 on top, it's going to make 7. And then 5 times 6, which is going to make 30. Again, you might as well just put the 30 straight in. And then adding these together, we're going to get 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 8 is 10. So carry the 1, put the 0 here. A 0 plus 7 plus the 1 we've carried over would be 8. 1 plus 0 is 1, and 3 there. So you get 31,806. So decimals next, 8.3 times 2.5. Now when timesing decimals, you lay out the question exactly the same. So 8.3 times 2.5, nothing changes there, and nor does the process really. When multiplying decimals, just completely ignore the decimals are there, just for a moment's time. We'll deal with those at the end. So pretend that decimal's not even there, as if we're just doing 83 times 25. So we've got the 3 times 5, it's going to give you 15. So 5 there, carry the 1. And then 8 times 5 is going to give you 40. With that 1 there, it's going to make 41. Next up, we have to do 3 times 2. And because we're dropping down a row, we're going to put a 0 here. So 3 times 2 is going to give you 6. And then we need to do 8 times 2, which is going to give you 16. So put your 16 in here. And so adding these together, we're going to get 5 plus 0 is 5, 1 plus 6 is 7, 4 plus 6 is 10, 1 plus the one we've carried over would be 2. And so now we've got to decide where to put that decimal place, because quite clearly it's not 2075. 8.3 times 2.5, not to surprise you, is not 2075. So where does that decimal belong? Well, a quick trick you can use is the number of digits after the decimal place at the beginning, okay, matches the number of digits after the decimal place at the end. So what I mean by that is at the beginning you can see we've got 8.3, so there's one number here after a decimal place, and 2.5, and that's another number there after the decimal place. So that's 2 numbers we've got after the decimal place. And that's also going to be the case in our final answer. It always matches up. So we've got 2 numbers after the decimal place, therefore meaning the decimal place must go here. So there really is no difference when times in decimals, just that extra little step at the end there. 6 times 11.7. Let's write that out. 6 times 11.7. And you'll notice it's not lined up in place value, but it's not going to be so important for this one here. 6 times 7 is going to give you 42. So let's put that in. And then moving to the next number. So 6 times 1, we're going to have to drop down. Let's put in a 0 there. 6 times the 1 is just going to give you 6. And then dropping down to the last row, you're going to have to put in 2 zeros. 6 times the 1 finally is going to give you another 6. And so adding all of these together, it's going to give you, well, 2 plus 0 plus 0, which is going to be 2. 4 plus 6 plus 0, which is going to be 10. 6 plus 1 is going to be 7. So you get 7, 0, 2. And again, looking at the original numbers, there is only one number after the decimal place, so that's going to be the same at the end. So you get 70.2 as your final answer. We could have also done this completely equivalently by putting 11.7 on top. And my advice to you generally would be to put the number with more digits in on top. I just wanted to show you that just in case you don't put the 6 at the bottom, it does still work, but it's usually going to be a bit more long-winded. So I always recommend putting the number with more digits on top. Using that for this question here. So tickets to a football match cost £23.99 each. Work out the total cost of 8 tickets. So we just need to do 23.99 multiplied by 8. We need to find out what 8 lots of 23.99 are. And you can see that I've put the number with more digits in on top. Both will work, but it does tend to be a little bit easier the majority of the time. So 9 times 8 is going to give you 72. 9 times 8 again is going to give you 72, but with the additional 7 we've carried over, that's going to give you 79. I carry a 7. 3 times 8 is going to give you 24. With the additional 7 we've carried over, that's going to make 31. Carry the 3. And finally, 2 times 8 is 16. With the additional 3 there, it's going to make 19. And so we get 19192. The number of digits after the decimal place at the start is 2. That's going to be the same here. So the decimal must be there. And we get £191.92. So the final answer would be £191.92. Division next, so find the value of 342 divided by 6. So we're going to use something called the bus stop method in order to solve these, okay? So we're doing 342 divided by, so we put that under the bus stop, 6. Okay, this is the setup that you need to know for these questions. Now, step 1, all we do is we find how many 6's go into our first number. So how many 6's go into 3? And of course, the answer is none. No 6's go into 3. And so what we do with that 3 is we cross it out and we carry it over to the next column to make 34 in that column now. And so step 2 is, how many 6s go into 34? And for that, it's a good idea if you just have some numbers in the 6 times table written out, just so you can see clearly how many 6s go into whichever number you need. So the 6 times table, you'd have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, and we'll stop there for now. And so how many 6s go into 34? Well, we can take 30 out of 34, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6s. So 5 6s go into 34. And taking 30 out of there, we'd have a remainder of 4. And so in the next column, you need to find out how many 6s go into 42. And we can see that's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 6s go into 42 with no remainder because that goes in perfectly. And so 342 divided by 6 is just 57. Next up, 390 over 15. Now remember, this is just a fraction line in the middle here. That means exactly the same as dividing. So you can use exactly the same technique and say we've got 390 divided by 15. Okay, so how many 15s go into 3? None. So 0, carry the 3 over. How many 15s go into 39? Well, let's find out. Let's put a few numbers in the 15 times table. So 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. We'll stop there for now. We don't need that many. So we can see how 30 we can take out of 39, and that's 2 lots of 15. So we can take 2 lots of 15 out of there, and that'll give us a remainder of 9. So carry the 9 over. Now we need to find how many 15s go into 90, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer here would be 26. 26. And sorry, the answer over here was 57, we said. Okay. Next up, dividing decimals. So 75.6 divided by 6.3. And so for this one here, we're going to lay it out the same, just for a start. And we're going to say 75.6 divided by 6.3. Now, basically, decimals are not very nice to work with. It's going to be very difficult to decide how many 6.3s go into 7 and then work our way down. So ideally, we want these to be whole numbers. Now, a quick trick you can use is you can move this decimal 1 to the right if you also do the same inside the bus stop. It's outside and inside the bus stop. As long as you do the same thing, then it's absolutely fine. And so just moving that decimal place 1 to the right in each of those numbers is just going to give you 63 here and 756. And so dividing 756 by 63 is going to give you the same result as dividing 75.6 by 6.3. So perfectly fine to do this. As long as you do the same inside and outside the bus stop, you're good to go. Now let's do this one here. So how many 63s go into 7? Or none. Into there, sorry, carry the 7. So how many 63s go into 75? 1, with a remainder of 12. And now we need to decide how many 63s go into 126. Let me just move that across so it's clear that's a 2. So how many 63s go into 126? And that's just 2. Remember, 2 times 63 is 126 with no remainder. And so we just get 12. 75.6 divided by 6.3 is just equal to 12. 50.6 divided by 2.2, let's do it in exactly the same way. 50.6 divided by 2.2. And remember, we can just move those decimals over to the right by 1. So that one can go over there, and that's just going to become 22. And this can go over here just to become 506. So we might as well just rub those out. 22 and 506. So we're doing 506 divided by 22, and that's going to give us the same result. So how many 22s go into 5? Well, none. Carry the 5 over. How many 22s go into 50? Let's just work that out. So let's look at a few numbers in the 22 times table. So 22, 44, 66, 88, and we'll leave that there for the time being. So we can see that we could take 2 lots of 22 out of 50, and since that's 44, the remainder is going to be 6. So we're going to have 6 left over. So we need to find how many 22s go into 66, and you can see that's just 3 with no remainder. And so the answer here is just 23. Calculate 5 divided by 4. So this one here is a bit of an awkward one. I'm going to talk about what happens in this case here. So let's do the normal bus stop method. So 5 divided by 4. So how many 4s go into 5? You'd say 1 with a remainder of 1. But what's going to happen here is you're going to run out of space. You put the 1 there, but obviously there's no 4s that can go into that 1. And so what are we supposed to do? Well, in that case, you can actually just stop and say, well, this is just equal to 1. So 5 divided by 4 is just equal to 1 with a remainder of 1. Okay, that would be one way of doing it. My preferred method, however, is to actually find this as a decimal. So the way you're going to do this is do exactly the same thing. So set up exactly the same. But to prevent yourself from running out of space straight away, you can write 5 as 5.00. Just give yourself a few zeros to work with. So 5.000 is still 5, but this way we're just not going to have to run out of room like we did previously. And you'll see what happens. So how many 4s go into 5 would just be 1. Okay, with a remainder of 1. Keep the decimal in the same place. How many 4s go into 10 would just be 2 with a remainder of 2. And how many 4s go into 20? Well, 4 times 5 is 20, so you can say 5 4s go into 20, and there's no remainder. And so 5 divided by 4 is actually just 1.25. And that's typically a more useful way of doing it, is actually giving us a decimal. So if you find this situation where you're running out of room and you need a precise answer, just put 0.000, just give you a few zeros to work with, and that should sort it out for you. So, question number 3. Each box of grass seed covers 9 meters squared of lawn. How many boxes should I buy to cover my garden with an area of 120 meters squared? So my garden has an area of 120 meters squared. I need to find how many boxes I need to buy if each box covers 9 meters squared of that. So we need to take 120 and divide that by 9. See how many 9s go into 120. So how many 9s go into 1 would be none. How many 9s go into 12 would be 1 with a remainder of 3. How many 9s go into 30 would be 3 with a remainder of 3. And again, we've run out of room. Okay, so remainder 3, we'll put R3 here. So there's actually no need to go any further, because since we only need to know how many boxes we need, well, we know we need 13 and a bit, we need 13 point something boxes. But when you walk into that shop, if you ask for 13.28 boxes, they're going to turn around and say, well, you can't do that. And so in order to cover our garden, we're actually going to have to buy 14 boxes. This is a really common thing they're going to do in exams, is they're going to try and catch you out by saying, well, it's 13 point whatever boxes. But in actual fact, you've got to think about it in practical terms, we can't actually buy that many boxes. We're always going to have to round up to buy the next one up. And that is every question I want to get done today. Thank you very much for watching. So we've managed to cover all the multiplication and division stuff you wanted to do. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Thanks again for watching. For more great resources to help build your confidence and ace your exams, feel free to head over to www.katala.co.uk, where you can sign up for free today. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or suggestions, just comment down below. Thank you.